Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, Paracetam, Modafinil, Nupep, Uridine monophosphate. I mean, phenylparacetam, forget it. You can always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
Episode number 44 of the Cortex Labs Nootropics Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Michael Balla. We're going to make this a quick one, and I am just going to give you a powerful stack from our guide, the Racetam God Guide. The Racetam God Guide is a guide that people ask me to write for years. Folks were like, dude, could you just write a digital guide that I can download on my iPhone or iPad that gives me powerful stacks? It teaches me how to use racetams, that explains the mechanism of action of racetams and everything else in between. We came through, we answered, we followed people's advice, we created a guide. It's called the Racetam God Guide. But the most powerful part about the Racetam God Guide, this digital guide that's on livecortex.com, you can download it right away. You're going to freaking love it. Is that the RGG, as it's called, contains a lot of stacks, very powerful stacks. You got stacks with Aniracetam, stacks with Oxiracetam, stacks with Nephiracetam, which is this curveball racetam that people don't use often, but that does have good nootropic benefits if you use it wisely, stacks with other interesting things, stacks with phenylparacetam, stacks with coliracetam, faciracetam, pramiracetam, and paracetam in that guide. And not only do we have just like regular stacks, we've got oral stacks, we've got sublingual stacks, we've got stacking these racetams with everything you can think of, from triacetyluridine to theacrine to Alcar to tyrosine to phenylalanine to Nupep to vinpocetine to Ep44 to theanine to basically everything else in between, to modafinil. I mean, one of the most powerful stacks in this guide, in the Racetam God Guide, is a pramiracetam modafinil stack. I mean, folks want to talk about learning how to turn their brain on to a different level. That guide delivers. But one of the powerful stacks I want to talk about that folks can use right away, they could use as a template, as a nootropic stack template, is essentially an Aniracetam, theacrine, caffeine, and alpha GPC stack. Okay, one of the things that I found over time in fussing with nootropics over the years, it's been just about 9 years for me taking nootropics, is that I could combine, particularly in the last couple years, I figured out I could combine theacrine with racetams, and that would work very well. I could combine alpha GPC with caffeine, and that would work very well. I could combine alpha GPC with caffeine and theacrine, and that would work very well. And then, adding racetam with caffeine, with theacrine, and with GPC got me a really substantial benefit. But I think the real power in a stack like this is getting the doses in the right quantities that really bring in the surgical brain benefit. Because even though a different doses work best for different people, I've come to learn over time that there are some pretty applicable dose ranges that are sort of generally usable for a lot of folks, like 80% of the population, or 60 to 80% of people that take nootropics are going to respond pretty positively and pretty favorably to particular dose combinations. And, we employ, with every stack that we put in the Racetam God Guide, or every stack that I take myself, or any stack that, we suggest to people through our consulting service. And by the way, we've got a nootropics consulting service. Get it at livecortex.com. It's a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences. We consult everybody from Fortune 500 executives to folks folks that work at mattress companies and want to be extra productive, to people that give speeches for a living, and basically everybody else in between. One of the things I learned in consulting folks on nootropics is that very particular surgical dose ranges in combination with other nootropic compounds, basically a methodology to putting together nootropic stacks, gets people the best results. And we've got a stack that's from the RGG that I want to share with you now that employs that methodology. Here's the stack. All right, it's 1,000 milligrams of Aniracetam. Okay, 1,000 milligrams of Aniracetam. It's 100 milligrams of theacrine. Okay, 100 milligrams theacrine. It's 100 milligrams of caffeine, and it is 175 milligrams of alpha GPC. All right, I'm going to run through the stack again in case you need to take notes. Here's the stack. It's 1,000 milligrams of Aniracetam, which is a gram of Aniracetam. That's it's a little higher than the normal dose range. And, normal dose on Aniracetam, 700 milligrams. 1,000 milligrams is really taking this stack to the next level. It's 100 milligrams of theacrine. Theacrine is this massively underrated, like wakefulness promoting, energy promoting sister of caffeine. It's 100 milligrams of caffeine. So like talk about stimulation. You're going to get stimulation insane with this stack. And then it's 175 milligrams of alpha GPC. Now, the reason we've got all this stuff together is really multifold. Number one, we want to provide a working memory benefit. We do that via aniracetam. Okay. Aniracetam releases extra acetylcholine from the hippocampus of the brain. That is a memory-centric region of the brain, and acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter involved in memory formation and memory functionality. Also focus, verbal fluency, a bunch of other things. All right, so aniracetam takes care of the functional working memory, but aniracetam is also very stimulatory. It's a stimulating racetam nootropic. When I take aniracetam, I just want to do stuff, whether it's sit down and play Battlefield 4 forever, or it's, like for 5 hours and zone in, or it's knock out a giant 10-list to-do list. It just gets me pumped to want to do stuff. And so that's aniracetam. Theacrine is one of these like drive you to actions, give the brain extra energy to do stuff kind of compounds. Like, I mean, it literally is 20, 30 minutes after you take it, you're just like, wow, my whole brain turned on. And through adenosine, optimization, which is what the neurotransmitter system that theacrine works on partially, it also optimizes dopamine signaling, right? So you get a bump of motivation with theacrine. So now you've got working memory, speed of processing, drive to action, right, with the aniracetam, and you've got just overall brain energy, right, and speed of processing via the theacrine and motivation to work. But then you put in some caffeine, right? Old-fashioned, good old, down-home, like predictable caffeine in the mix, right? Caffeine adds that extra energy, bumps up the adenosine receptor, facilitates motivation, similarly to theacrine, but just, slightly different. These compounds are similar, but theacrine, frankly, is like a lot better. But the combination of the two really does pack a powerful stimulating punch. But then what we want to do is we want to provide a choline source for the racetam to do its work on memory, and to add a little bit more functionality in there with the alpha GPC. Alpha GPC goes and builds phosphatidylcholine. It increases growth hormone, right? It's a direct donor or precursor to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, and it works in conjunction, especially at these doses. People try to dose very high on GPC, and that's a mistake. With aniracetam, it works perfectly with aniracetam in this dose for most people. This stack right here is a mental energy, stimulation, drive you to action, functional working memory, like cranked up wakefulness type of stack. These are the kind of stacks. It's simple, right? This is 4 compounds. But this is one of the stacks that I, a nootropics, veteran, as you might say, that's been taking nootropics for 9 years, I'll take a stack like this to get my game on, to get my brain on, to be tapped in, to get ready to work and ready to be productive. Use that stack, love that stack, take that stack. That comes directly out of the Racetam God Guide. Look, if you want more stacks like that, this is what I want you to do. Go to livecortex.com whenever you have a chance. Livecortex.com, that's the Cortex Labs website. You will see on the menu the Racetam God Guide, the Racetam Stack List, or the Racetam God Guide. Select which device you want to read it on. You can read it on an iPad, a Kindle, an iPhone, an Android device, like whatever you want. Any tablet you have, you can get a PDF version of it. You can get you can read it on a PC or a Mac, whatever you want to do. Most people just read it on an iPhone or an iPad or something, or if you've got an Android, Samsung device, you read it directly on your device. Select which device you want to get it from, and then order it, download it. The Racetam God Guide's $25. That thing is uber cheap. It's packed with powerful nootropic stacks you'll have forever. It's a one-time spend. You will thank me. Get it at livecortex.com. But also, we've got 2 other guys I just want to quickly mention that are essentially the same concept, many, many powerful stacks, but for different nootropics. We got a Noopept stack list called the Noopept Pro Stack List. This is 4 years of concentrated effort of putting together the most powerful Noopept stacks on the planet in this guide. That is $28, but well worth it. Downloadable, you can get it right away. And then we've got one that's for people that are new to nootropics. Basically, the 1 to 2 year range in taking nootropics teaches you everything: modafinil, caffeine, theanine protocols, choline sources, Alcar, Racetam stacks, everything else you can think of. That's called Smarter, Better, Faster. Okay, that you can get at livecortex.com. All those guides you can get at livecortex.com to get stacks like this. And while we're at it, before we jet on the podcast here, hey, the Cortex stack, we've got a stack. It's called Cortex. If you've not tried it, get it at livecortex.com. This is a powerful frontal lobe, speed of processing, mental energy stack. Okay, we've got many, many stacks in all these different guides, but one of my favorite stacks that allowed me to run a company 18 hours a day and just kill it with verbal fluency, speed of processing, mental energy, motivation, is called Cortex. It's a stack I was taking, combined uridine monophosphate with choline source, bacopa monnieri, and a little bit of artichoke extract. We found that combination particularly was essentially like a natural version of modafinil. It's called Cortex. Get it at livecortex.com. Lastly, on the Product Pro, we've got a consulting package. Well, we mentioned it before. Consulting package with me. It is a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Get the Racetam God Guide if you want access to the stack, very many more stacks like the stack we talked about today, and use this Aniracetam Theacrine Caffeine GPC stack to get more productivity. Thanks for listening.